On October 1935, Lucky Luciano orders the hit that kills Dutch Schultz. And suddenly, Harlem's 3-year war is over. But here's what the history books won't tell you. What happens next changes the rules of organized crime forever. A black gangster named Bumpy Johnson sits down with the most powerful mob boss in America and negotiates a deal that nobody thought possible. For the next 40 years, he'll rule Harlem under an arrangement that keeps the Italian Mafia at bay while maintaining black independence. He'll befriend Malcolm X, survive Alcatraz, and become a legend. This is his true story, the one that inspired MGM+'s hit series, Godfather of Harlem, where Forrest Whitaker brings the Godfather to life. But as incredible as the show is, the real Bumpy Johnson was even more complex, more fascinating, and more dangerous than any television series could capture. Thanks for clicking on this video. We're just a group of friends with regular 9-to-5s, but these stories haunt us enough to spend our nights bringing them to you. We don't ask for much, just your subscription, a like, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Thank you for believing in what we're doing. Every single one of you makes this possible. October 31st, 1905, Charleston, South Carolina. A baby boy enters the world with a bump on the back of his head, and they name him Ellsworth Raymond Johnson. Nobody knows it yet, but this child with the unusual bump will grow up to become the most powerful black gangster in American history. His parents, Margaret Moultrie and William Johnson, raised 7 children in the Jim Crow South, where being black means living with a target on your back every single day. Young Ellsworth learns this lesson early, but not in the way you'd expect. When Bumpy turns 10 years old, his older brother Willie gets accused of killing a white man. The accusation alone is enough, because in 1915 Charleston, a black man accused of murdering a white man doesn't get a trial. He gets a lynching. Bumpy's parents mortgage their tiny home, scraping together every dollar they can find, and they send Willie north to relatives where he might actually survive. But the family still isn't safe, because Bumpy has inherited something dangerous, a short temper and an inability to bite his tongue when white people disrespect him. His parents watch their young son with growing fear, knowing that his defiance will get him killed if he stays in the South. So in 1919, when Bumpy is just 14 years old, they make the hardest decision any parent can make and send him to live with his older sister Mabel in Harlem, New York. The move saves his life, yet it also sets him on a path that will define the criminal underworld for decades to come. Harlem in the 1920s is unlike anything Bumpy has ever seen. It's the epicenter of the Harlem Renaissance, where black art, music, and culture flourish in ways the South never allowed. Jazz pours from every nightclub. Writers and poets gather in speakeasies. And for the first time in his life, Bumpy sees black people living with dignity and pride. But beneath the glamour, there's another Harlem, one ruled by violence, poverty, and crime. Bumpy, small-framed with a thick Southern accent, immediately becomes a target for bullies who see him as an easy mark. They don't know what he learned in Charleston, though, because that short temper his parents feared. It makes him a scrappy fighter who refuses to back down from anyone, no matter how big they are. He drops out of high school and starts working odd jobs, drifting from one hustle to another. Pimping, thieving, bribery. Bumpy tries it all, and he's good at it. A local gangster named William Hewitt notices the kid with the bump on his head, who fights like he's got nothing to lose, and Hewitt brings him into the life. From that moment forward, Bumpy Johnson becomes a professional criminal, and he's never looking back. By the time he turns 30, Bumpy has spent half his life behind bars. Multiple arrests for burglary, assault, and other crimes have taught him 2 things: how to survive in prison and how much he hates being locked up. During those long stretches in various prisons, Bumpy discovers something unexpected about himself. He loves to read. He devours every book he can get his hands on, educates himself, and even starts writing poetry. Some of his poems actually get published in Harlem magazines during the Renaissance, proving that beneath the tough exterior is a brilliant mind. But prison also hardens him. His difficult attitude and constant fights with guards land him in solitary confinement for more than 3 years during one 10-year sentence for burglary. The isolation doesn't break him, though. It makes him more calculating, more strategic, more dangerous. When Bumpy walks out of prison in 1932, he's broke, unemployed, and 33 years old. He returns to a Harlem that's changed dramatically during his time away, because now a new force has taken over the streets: Dutch Schultz. Arthur Flegenheimer, better known as Dutch Schultz, is a Jewish gangster from the Bronx who's decided that Harlem's numbers racket is his for the taking. The numbers game is simple. Poor folks bet nickels and dimes on lottery numbers, and those small bets add up to millions of dollars. For years, black entrepreneurs have run the numbers in Harlem, keeping the money in their own community. Dutch Schultz sees that money and wants all of it. His method is brutally effective. He sends armed men into Harlem to tell every numbers banker. They have 2 choices: work for Schultz and give him the majority of their profits, or die. One by one, Harlem's independent operators either surrender or disappear. The community watches helplessly as white gangsters steal their livelihood, and nobody seems powerful enough to stop it. Nobody except Stephanie St. Clair. Madame Stephanie St. Clair, also known as Queenie, or the Queen of the Policy Rackets, is a brilliant black woman who built a numbers empire through intelligence and ruthlessness. She's roughly 20 years older than Bumpy, and when they meet, something clicks. Some people whisper they're romantically involved, but what's certain is that she sees potential in the newly released ex-con with the hungry eyes and the willingness to fight. St. Clair makes Bumpy her bodyguard and chief enforcer, and she gives him a mission: wage war against Dutch Schultz. Bumpy assembles a crew of 9 men, and they begin what St. Clair's wife Mamie would later call a guerrilla war. The strategy is simple but effective. Dutch Schultz's men are white, and white men walking through Harlem during the day stand out like neon signs. Bumpy and his crew pick them off one by one. They kidnap Schultz's enforcers. They murder his collectors. They disrupt his operations at every turn. The war consumes Harlem for 3 years. Over 40 people get kidnapped or killed, and the streets run red with blood. Bumpy becomes known as a man who will do anything to protect Harlem's independence, and his legend grows with every Dutch Schultz soldier who disappears. But here's the thing about wars: they don't end because the good guys win. They end because bigger players decide the outcome. Lucky Luciano, the most powerful Italian mob boss in New York, watches the Harlem War with growing annoyance. The violence is bad for business, and Dutch Schultz's erratic behavior is becoming a liability. So Luciano makes a decision that changes everything. He orders a hit on Dutch Schultz. On October 23, 1935, gunmen walk into the Palace Chop House in Newark, New Jersey, and shoot Dutch Schultz. The beer baron of the Bronx dies the next day, and suddenly, the war is over. Now comes the negotiation that will define the rest of Bumpy Johnson's life. Lucky Luciano sits down with Stephanie St. Clair and Bumpy Johnson to hammer out a deal. St. Clair wants to maintain her independence, yet she's smart enough to know she can't fight the entire Italian Mafia. Bumpy, thinking 3 moves ahead like he always does, sees an opportunity. The deal they strike is unprecedented. Harlem's numbers operators can continue running their own businesses, maintaining their independence, but they have to pay a percentage to the Genovese crime family for protection. In exchange, Bumpy Johnson will oversee all black numbers runners and enforce mafia policies in Harlem. It's not a perfect solution, because Harlem still has to pay tribute to the Italians. But as Mamie Johnson would write decades later, the people of Harlem realized Bumpy had ended the war with no further losses and had negotiated a peace with honor. And they realized that for the first time, a black man had stood up to the white mob instead of just bowing down and going along to get along. Bumpy Johnson becomes the Godfather of Harlem, and the partnership with Lucky Luciano lasts for 4 decades. But power comes with a price, and Bumpy's growing empire attracts attention from law enforcement. If you're hooked on this intriguing true story, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets even crazier. We're talking Alcatraz, Malcolm X, and a death nobody saw coming. Let's keep going. Bumpy's reign over Harlem in the 1940s is absolute. Anyone who wants to open a bar, run numbers, or conduct any criminal business in the neighborhood has to get Bumpy's approval first. He controls the flow of money, and he controls who lives and who dies. His methods are brutal. There's a story about a rival named Ulysses Rollins that reveals just how dangerous Bumpy can be. According to his biography, Bumpy spots Rollins in a restaurant, pulls out a knife, and jumps on him. They roll around on the floor for a few moments before Bumpy stands up, straightens his tie, and calmly steps over Rollins' body. Rollins lies on the floor with his face and body badly gashed, one of his eyeballs hanging from the socket by ligaments. Bumpy picks up a menu and says he suddenly has a taste for spaghetti and meatballs. That's the Bumpy Johnson the streets fear. Calm, calculating, and absolutely merciless when crossed. But here's what makes Bumpy different from other gangsters. He genuinely cares about his community. He hands out free turkeys every Thanksgiving, delivers meals to struggling families, and hosts a Christmas party for Harlem children. For a year. When families can't pay rent, Bumpy pays it for them. When police harass black businesses, Bumpy makes phone calls that make the harassment stop. He lectures young people in the neighborhood about staying in school, warning them not to follow his path. He tells them, "Get your education. Don't end up like me." It's the Robin Hood paradox. He's a violent criminal who genuinely wants better for his people. Bumpy also develops a reputation as a fashionable man about town. He has an affair with Helen Lawrenson, a writer, editor, and socialite at Vanity Fair, and she orders custom suits for him from luxury tailors and buys him shirts and ties from Solka, one of the most expensive brands in New York. When Bumpy walks through Harlem in his impeccable gray suits and trademark fedora, he looks like royalty, and that's exactly the image he wants to project. His social circle includes celebrities like Billie Holiday and Sugar Ray Robinson. He's not just a gangster, he's a cultural figure, someone who moves between the criminal underworld and high society with equal ease. Then in 1948, everything changes when Bumpy walks into a diner and sees a woman eating alone. Her name is Mamie Hatcher, and she moved to New York from North Carolina in 1938. She's been working as a waitress and later as a hostess, making her way in the city. When Bumpy sits down and strikes up a conversation, she has no idea she's talking to the most powerful gangster in Harlem. They talk about everything: life, dreams, the future. 6 months later, they get married. Mamie becomes Bumpy's anchor, the one person who sees past the Godfather persona to the complex man underneath. They have 2 daughters, Ruthie and Elise, though Elise is from a previous relationship. For 20 years, Mamie stands by her husband through arrests, prison sentences, and the constant threat of violence that comes with his lifestyle. By 1952, Bumpy's activities are so notorious that Jet magazine, the premier black publication of the era, starts reporting on him in their celebrity section. He's reached a level of fame where he's not just a local crime boss, he's a national figure in the black community. But that fame comes with scrutiny, and federal authorities have been building a case against him for years. In 1952, federal agents arrest Bumpy Johnson for conspiracy to sell heroin. Bumpy maintains he was framed, and many people in Harlem believe him, because the feds have been trying to take him down for years and might have manufactured evidence to make it happen. But the charges stick, and a judge sentences him to 15 years in federal prison. Not just any prison, though. They're sending him to Alcatraz. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary located on an island in San Francisco Bay, California, is known as the Rock for good reason. It's America's most secure prison, designed for the most dangerous criminals in the country. Al Capone served time there. Machine Gun Kelly, the notorious American gangster from Memphis, Tennessee, served time there. And now, Bumpy Johnson, inmate number 1117, will serve most of his 15-year sentence there. The conditions are harsh. The isolation is brutal. The prison's cold, damp environment breaks many men's spirits within months. But Bumpy Johnson isn't most men. He adapts to life on the Rock with the same calm calculation he brought to the streets of Harlem. He keeps to himself, maintains his composure, and survives. His legend grows even while he's locked away, and there are persistent rumors that he helps orchestrate the famous 1962 Alcatraz escape, supposedly arranging for a boat to pick up the 3 escapees once they reach San Francisco Bay. The rumors are never confirmed, yet they add to the mystique of the man who seems to maintain power even from inside America's most secure prison. While Bumpy sits in Alcatraz, the world changes around him. The civil rights movement explodes across America. Malcolm X rises to national prominence as a leader in the Nation of Islam. The battle for equality that Bumpy fought in his own way on Harlem's streets is now being fought in courtrooms, at lunch counters, and on city buses across the country. Bumpy spends 11 years in federal custody before getting released on parole in 1963. He walks out of Alcatraz just months before the prison closes permanently, and he returns to a Harlem that's transformed during his absence. When he arrives back in his neighborhood, something remarkable happens. The community throws him an impromptu parade. Hundreds of people line the streets to welcome the Godfather home. It's a testament to how beloved he is in Harlem, despite, or perhaps because of, his criminal activities. To the people of Harlem, Bumpy Johnson isn't just a gangster. He's their gangster, the man who protected them when nobody else would. But Bumpy quickly realizes that 11 years is a lifetime in the criminal underworld. The Italian mob has encroached further into Harlem. New players have emerged. The drug trade has exploded. The Apollo Theater is still there, but almost everything else has changed. Bumpy needs allies, and he finds an unexpected one in an old acquaintance from the 1940s. Malcolm X. Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little, went by the street name Detroit Red when he was a hustler in Harlem in the 1940s. During that time, he knew Bumpy Johnson by reputation and possibly met him personally. By 1963, Malcolm has become one of the most prominent voices in the Black Power movement, preaching black nationalism and self-defense against white aggression. The two men reconnect, and despite their different paths, one a criminal, one an activist, they develop a genuine friendship. According to Mamie Johnson's memoir, Bumpy was impressed with Malcolm, and he was one of those who supported Malcolm's new organization after he left the Nation of Islam in 1964. I need you to do something right now. If this story is blowing your mind, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with someone who loves true crime or black history. This is the kind of story that needs to be told, and you can help by spreading it. Malcolm X's split from the Nation of Islam in 1964 puts his life in immediate danger. The organization he helped build now views him as a traitor, and death threats start pouring in. Malcolm knows he needs protection, so he turns to the one man in Harlem powerful enough to provide it: Bumpy Johnson. According to Mamie, Bumpy offers Malcolm protection for him and his family at their home in East Ellsworth. Bumpy is ready to assign armed guards, providing the same security he would give to any important figure in Harlem. But Malcolm declines the offer. He said he didn't want men with guns around him because it would be like he was trying to provoke something. Mamie recalls Bumpy telling his associate Jameson, Junie Bird, "He should have listened to me." Malcolm's reasoning makes sense from his perspective. Accepting protection from a known gangster could damage his credibility as a civil rights leader. He doesn't want his enemies to use Bumpy's criminal reputation against him. So despite Bumpy's warnings, Malcolm tells him to withdraw his men. 2 weeks later, on February 21st, 1965, 3 men walk into the Audubon Ballroom in Manhattan and shoot Malcolm X. He dies in front of his wife and children, and Harlem mourns the loss of one of its greatest leaders. Bumpy Johnson takes Malcolm's death hard. He blames himself for respecting Malcolm's wishes instead of protecting him anyway. The assassination leaves him devastated, yet it also reinforces a lesson he's always known. In this life, loyalty is everything, and trusting the wrong people gets you killed. Bumpy continues ruling Harlem, but something inside him has shifted. He's now in his 60s, and the weight of decades of violence is catching up with him. His relationship with law enforcement becomes increasingly contentious. In December 1965, frustrated by constant police surveillance of black neighborhoods, Bumpy stages a protest that perfectly captures his defiant spirit. He stages a sit-down strike at a police station and refuses to leave. He just sits there, daring them to arrest him for the crime of existing in a public place. Eventually, they charge him with refusal to leave a police station, but a judge later acquits him. It's a small victory, yet it shows that even in his 60s, Bumpy Johnson hasn't lost his fire. By 1968, Bumpy has over 40 arrests on his record and has served 2 lengthy prison terms. He's still under federal indictment for drug conspiracy. The government never stops trying to put him away. Yet he remains the most powerful black gangster in America. The man who negotiated with the Italian Mafia as an equal and protected Harlem's interests for nearly 40 years. Then comes July 7th, 1968. It's just after midnight, and Bumpy decides to grab a late meal at Wells Restaurant in Harlem. It's a neighborhood spot where he's eaten 1,000 times before. He sits down and orders his usual: coffee, a chicken leg, and hominy grits. The waitress brings his food, and Bumpy starts eating. He's surrounded by childhood friends, people he's known since before he became the Godfather, back when he was just Ellsworth, the kid from Charleston with a bump on his head. They're laughing, telling old stories, enjoying the kind of simple moment that's increasingly rare in Bumpy's dangerous life. Then, without warning, Bumpy clutches his chest. His friends watch in horror as the most powerful man in Harlem, the man who survived wars with Dutch Schultz, 11 years in Alcatraz, and countless assassination attempts, falls over, gasping for air. Someone calls an ambulance, but it's too late. Ellsworth Raymond Bumpy Johnson dies in the arms of his closest friend, Junie Bird, from congestive heart failure. He's 62 years old. The cause isn't a bullet or a knife. It isn't a rival's revenge or a mob hit. It's his heart, the organ that kept him alive through decades of violence, that finally gives out. Mamie Johnson later reflects on her husband's death with these words: "Bumpy's life may have been a violent and turbulent one, but his death was one that any Harlem sporting man would pray for, eating fried chicken at Wells Restaurant in the wee hours of the morning surrounded by childhood friends. It just can't get better than that." Thousands of people attend Bumpy's funeral. Uniformed police officers station themselves on surrounding rooftops with shotguns, not to pay respects, but to watch for trouble. Because even in death, Bumpy Johnson commands that much attention. The entire neighborhood comes out to say goodbye to the man who protected them, provided for them, and stood up to forces that wanted to crush them. Bumpy Johnson's legacy lives on decades after his death, and it's complicated in the best possible way. He was a gangster who murdered and kidnapped over 40 people. He was a community leader who fed families and paid their rent. He was a brilliant strategist who negotiated with the Italian Mafia as an equal. He was a violent enforcer who taught children to stay in school. Hollywood has tried to capture his essence multiple times. Moses Gunn played a character based on Bumpy in Shaft in 1971. Lawrence Fishburne portrayed him in the 1997 film Hoodlum. Clarence Williams III played him in Ridley Scott's American Gangster in 2007. But the most comprehensive portrayal comes from the MGM Plus series, Godfather of Harlem, which premiered in September 2019. Academy Award winner Forrest Whitaker stars as Bumpy Johnson, and the show picks up right where Bumpy's real story gets most interesting. In 1963, immediately after his release from Alcatraz. The series, created by Chris Brancato and the late Paul Eckstein, follows Bumpy as he battles to reclaim control of Harlem from the Italian mob, develops his friendship with Malcolm X, and navigates the explosive political landscape of the 1960s. The show features Vincent D'Onofrio as Vincent Chin Gigante, Nigel Thatch, and later Jason Allen Carvel as Malcolm X, and Giancarlo Esposito as Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Season 4, which premiered in April 2025, introduces Rome Flynn as Frank Lucas, the drug dealer who would eventually take over Harlem after Bumpy's death. The show has been renewed through its 4th season and remains one of MGM Plus's most popular series, proving that Bumpy Johnson's story still resonates with audiences more than 50 years after his death. What makes Godfather of Harlem special is how it captures the contradictions that defined the real Bumpy Johnson. Forrest Whitaker portrays him not as a one-dimensional gangster, but as a complex man navigating an impossible situation, trying to protect his community while operating outside the law, attempting to build a legitimate legacy while being pulled back into violence, yearning for respect in a society designed to deny him dignity. The show also doesn't shy away from the moral complexity of Bumpy's deal with the Italian Mafia. Was it a betrayal of black independence? Or was it the best deal possible under circumstances where the alternative was watching Harlem get completely consumed by forces beyond anyone's control? The show, like Bumpy's real life, leaves that question open for viewers to decide. Mamie Johnson lived until May 2009, dying at age 94. Before her death, she wrote a memoir titled Harlem Godfather, The Rap on My Husband, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, which became a primary source for the television series. In the book, she defends her husband's choices and explains the context that made him who he was. Looking back at Bumpy Johnson's life from our vantage point in 2025, what strikes you most is how relevant his story remains. He lived in an era where systemic racism was even more explicit than it is today, where black people had almost no legal recourse against oppression, and where organized crime offered one of the few paths to real power. Bumpy chose that path, and he walked it for over 40 years. He became a legend, a cautionary tale, and a folk hero all at once. He proved that a black man could negotiate with the Italian Mafia as an equal. He demonstrated that intelligence and strategy could overcome brute force. He showed that it was possible to be both feared and levied, both violent and generous, both a gangster and a protector. The bump on his head that gave him his nickname marked him as different from the day he was born. And different he was. Different from other gangsters. Different from other black leaders. Different from anyone who came before or after. Ellsworth Raymond Bumpy Johnson was one of a kind. He was the real Godfather of Harlem. If you made it this far, you're the real one. Show some love by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment about what part of Bumpy's story surprised you most. And here's a question for you. If they made a movie about your life, would you want it to be brutally honest like Bumpy's story, or would you want them to clean it up? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and remember, history is always more complicated than Hollywood movies.